Lionel is a custodian that longs for more. He cleans at the Janitor Corporation along with fellow custodian, best friend and mentor Mr.Grove. Bombarded with daily disrespect and insults from coworkers, Lionel sets on a trail of revenge and begins to brutally murder everyone in his path. However, this killing spree can't satisfy Lionel's true dream, to be the custodian of a house filled with respectful, beautiful, naked college women. When Lionel happens upon a group of sorority girls at his local bar, his dream is finally within his reach. But getting this job won't be easy. The custodial gloves will have to come off in an ultimate showdown, a bloodbath at the sorority house, filled with intriguing characters, over-the-top humor, blood, guts, and lots of naked women. The Janitor is the must-see horror comedy of the year. I'm Corey.
And I'm Paul, broadcasting from Millville Studios on the River's Edge Network.
We are
the B-Movie Bros. Here we review low-budget B-movies and review them as critically as we possibly can.
On this week's edition, we bring you The Janitor, the 2003 horror comedy slasher movie from filmmakers Andy Signore and T.J. Nordaker. What you heard at the intro was the back of the box. So let's take a look at the cover art.
Okay, so here on the cover art, we've got actually a cartoon version of a bunch of the characters. We've got the Lionel the Janitor in the middle, holding a human arm, looking as crazy as a human being can look. We've got
him surrounded by 6 other characters, 3 women and 3 men. We've got a sign down in the bottom that says, "Warning, people dying."
It's kind of one of those wet floor signs, only with warning people dying on it.
The Janitor looks like it's been painted in blood. And we've got my favorite, a tagline. Can you read that tagline for me?
An epic of custodial proportions.
Oh, that just hits home right there.
Sends shivers down my spine.
So yeah, we've got a lot going on this cover, and then with the back, we've got 4 pictures. One has a red overlay on it. Either something's on fire or
just like a lighting thing. Just
Cyclops is shooting them with an eye blast.
Yeah, something for effect.
You've got women in bras.
Always good.
A beat up hand and a blood soaked face. So yeah, this looks pretty good here. I like this.
Definitely leaves an impression.
But how we got this movie, I honestly can't remember. I've had this movie forever. The only thing I can remember is it came from Media Play.
Yeah, I remember one day you just kind of showed up at my place. You're like, "This is The Janitor." It's like, well, we definitely need to watch this one.
So at first sight, Paul, what did you think looking at this cover and reading the description?
Honestly, I expected this to be just some crazy guy killing as many people as he could, with a slight plot and just a janitor killing people in as many ironic janitor kind of ways as possible, with plungers, with toilet cleaning supplies, any way possible.
You know, looking at the cover, I like blood. We've got some blood. I'm expecting people to die. There is a sign that says, "Warning, people dying."
Yeah, I got that impression too.
Custodial goings on. I expect things to get cleaned. I expect things to get dirty. Yeah, just your general janitorial duties. I'm expecting tits. I don't know about you, but on the back, we've got women in bras. Actually, one of the women on the cover is in a bra, and it says naked women. I'm expecting lots of tits here.
Yeah, I would have been disappointed if there wasn't.
Judging by the severed hand on the cover, I'm thinking dismemberment.
Yeah, just him, beating somebody with a severed, arm. That would... I was expecting that, definitely.
So, on the cover, we have 7 characters, and there's a few more than that. So let's get into some character talk here. So our first character, the center character, is Lionel. And he's a janitor with anger issues, murderous tendency, and he longs to have a better life. And he's our main character. The story revolves around him and what he's going through.
He's your all-American hero.
You've got Mr. Cornelius Hornsby Grobo. That he has faith in the custodial arts. He's Lionel's best friend. He's his mentor. He enjoys erotic fiction and has the most wonderful handwriting I've ever seen a man have.
Yeah, that was impressive.
We've got Mary, who is the best friend of Lionel's love interest, Hillary. She's just your typical office slut.
Every office has one.
Then we've got Hillary, who's Lionel's crush. Her husband was mysteriously killed in a fire about a month ago, according to the movie. And then there's a couple more people at the office. We've got Mr. Bouillabaisse, who is the boss of Lionel and the office crew. And he really does seem to care about his employees, even though he comes off as a sarcastic bastard. And he's really obsessed with STDs.
Yeah, it's kind of a thing for him. At every point in the movie, he's reading a book called So You've Got an STD. It was really interesting. We've got Agent Page. He was this incompetent FBI agent trying to solve the murders going on around the office. Then we've got Robbie. He was this conceited male boy who was constantly hitting on Mary and the other women. And then we've got the sorority girls. Their names really aren't important.
They're from the Tau Nu Alpha, or TNA sorority.
I see what they did there.
We've got the bartender, who wears some pretty awesome t-shirts and is full of advice for Lionel.
I think he had 2 lines in the whole movie, and they were just amazing.
It was beautiful. Made me want to cry.
I know I did.
We have Willis, who's the new custodian at the office. His favorite song is This Little Light of Mine, and his actions suggest that something traumatic happened to him in his childhood, and that he is actually a child trapped in a man's body.
Yeah, if Lionel was Batman, Willis would have been his Robin. He was really looked up to him. It was an interesting relationship.
There was the bum who lived in the alley behind the office building.
Obsessed with Asian hookers.
And really just was there to torment Lionel.
Yeah.
And then we have a returning character from Feast. We have the beer guy.
Yeah, wasn't it played by the same guy, too?
Exactly. It was Judah
really
Friedlander.
Kind of a crossover.
Playing this full of shit guy that delivers and drinks beer. And actually, I guess he was returning in Feast, since Feast was in 2005 and the Janitor was 2003. But yeah, I was just kind of taken aback seeing him in this movie. I was like, whoa, beer guy.
It's amazing how things kind of tie together sometimes.
All right, let's get into some plot points here. Let's give you a little rundown of the movie. So we open up with a cleaning montage.
Every movie should have one.
Then Lionel gets peed on by one of the office workers and sets him on fire as,
reasonable kind of result.
The boss announces an FBI investigation into the murders at the office. Lionel kills another employee just for laughing at him. He takes out the trash and gets harassed by a bum. Agent Page interacts with Hillary and Mary. Then Lionel gets ready to go on a date with Hillary, only to be stood up. Lionel takes out his frustrations on some graffiti artists, then goes to pick up a hooker, suffers from some fever dreams, and then murders her. The semen sample from her body is sent off to the lab to be analyzed. Agent Page announces the semen sample has been found to the office. Lionel and Mr. Grove set out to stop the sample. Lionel masturbates an unconscious FBI agent to replace the sample. We're at the 30-minute mark. Lionel's hassled by the bum again. Lionel learns of Hillary quitting her job and goes to a bar where he meets the TNA girls. Lionel kills one of the sorority girls' boyfriends. He tells Mr. Grove of his job offer, and this upsets Mr. Grove deeply. Agent Page learns of the switch of the semen. Lionel has an interview at the TNA sorority house. Lionel goes back to his old job and tells them that he has a new job. We're 50 minutes in here, folks. Mr. Grobo's letter is found. Willis is introduced. Lionel gets ready to leave and arrives at the sorority house, only to find that his job was stolen by Mr. Grobo. There's a topless pillow fight. 57 minutes in. Robbie and Mary are caught having sex in the lobby. Lionel chases Mary through the building and murders her in front of Willis. Then Lionel and Willis discuss plans for revenge. And there's a Willis training montage. 67 minutes in. The sorority party happens. Then Lionel begins his sorority house slaughter. 16 murdered. Willis tries to save Lionel from Mr. Grove and ends up getting shot, dying. Now, we have our final showdown with Mr. Grove at 81 minutes. Mr. Grove plays his ace in the hole, a kidnapped Hillary. Lionel is powerless. Agent Page arrives just in time and accidentally kills everyone except Lionel and shoots himself in the process. Lionel sees the news of the massacre at the bar and takes Willis's body to bury him as he requested at the sacred Indian burial ground. Whew.
That was just epic. That was beautiful to hear.
So, did this movie meet your expectations, Paul?
Yeah, pretty much. That there really weren't that many surprises. The back of the movie and the cover really summed it up pretty well.
All the characters from the movie, all the characters on the cover are actually people in the movie. It matches up. But what it says that Lionel just kind of is killing everyone in his path, and he really doesn't. He's not out just to kill everybody. He kills people for specific reasons.
Well, he kills a hooker for no real reason. He just kind of goes to red and just chops her head off. That was
and it seems
weird.
Like, it says it's his dream to clean a sorority house. He doesn't seem too interested in it. Like, he's just glad to get a different cleaning job. Whereas everybody he tells about the job is like, oh.
I think he had some interest in it. He was definitely there was definitely a job that he was pretty excited to go into. Maybe, I think that was the extent of the excitement he could show, really.
But yeah,
I
I think
kind of a murdering psychopath.
He was glad to fall into a new job, and just the fact that it was a sorority house was a bonus.
The fact that there were naked women didn't really hurt.
So yeah, that was a pretty good description on their part. So let's take a look at technical difficulties. How were the special effects?
The special effects were, considering that what a low budget film this was, I thought it was pretty good. We got to see the extra features and how they did the blood, how they got it to just spray wherever they wanted. How it was a low budget film, but weren't any it wasn't as ridiculous as I would have expected it to be.
It was all old school techniques, and everything was proportional.
Yeah, it wasn't outrageous with the blood.
The blood wasn't over the top. Some of the murders were, and how they went about them, but
that was part of the movie. That was
and
the
it
fun
fit.
Of it.
They did it well. There was, once again, no CGI. I love that. I love when there's no CGI in a movie.
Okay, they couldn't have afforded CGI, and I don't think anyone would have known how to do that. Like, I'm not gonna credit them with that just because, like, this isn't the type of movie that would have had CGI. Like, it was just like what they did was great, but like, let's not pretend it was any bigger than it was.
And the silliest of the special effects were throwing bodies off buildings and bodies being hit by cars, because you could obviously tell that it were dummies, because the dummies would start falling apart before they would hit the car or before they would hit the ground.
Wait, those were dummies?
Yeah, those were dummies, Paul. People don't flop like Raggedy Ann.
Well, now I know.
So the effects were pretty good. I liked them. They fit with the movie. Even the crappy ones. It went along with the theme.
Yeah, they definitely worked really hard on it. Like, they were consistent with it. They knew how to do the effects. Like, they definitely had people who had worked with stuff like that, but they were still amateurs to it. But they had made shorter films that used blood and effects like that. So they definitely had some good people working on this.
Any plot points? Any plot problems? Did you see any continuity errors or catch anything that you were like, oh, what's going on there?
The whole movie was basically what the hell, but as far as consistency goes, I didn't see any things that really stood out.
So everything was easily understandable. It was well paced. I didn't feel like it took too long. This movie was a total of... Hold on, folks. There's writing here somewhere. It was a total of 92 minutes. Now, did you at any point think that this was 2 hours long like the last movie, Feast?
No, this one was a lot of fun to watch. I actually thought it was only about an hour.
So how about camera? Anything with the camera? I mean, it was shot on video.
Yeah, so, I mean, it wasn't the best quality, but it was a little shaky at times. Like during some of the running scenes, during some of the hallway scenes, it was a bit shaky. But I could kind of let that slide. With a movie like this, it's kind of hard to tell whether or not they're trying to go for kind of bad camera angles and camera effects, but I really don't know, and I don't want to say like, oh, they were going for that, because that's just excusing something that shouldn't be excused. But overall, it didn't detract from the movie. It was still a lot of fun, and like I said, it was a B movie. So.
The only thing that seemed strange to me with the camera, when it went to the final fight scene with Mr.Grove and Lionel, it seemed like quality dropped a lot. It seemed like the frame rate dropped, and I don't know if that was intentional, or they switched film, or they switched camera types.
Their budget ran out at that point.
So, that's all I could see with it. The audio. Now, this is my only gripe. There are times that audio syncs up. You can tell it's what was recorded on camera. But there are a lot of times in the movie that you can tell it was dubbed over.
Yeah, they even said at numerous times throughout the movie they had to dub over because it was really difficult for their audio to work with that. So it definitely didn't look natural. The inflections didn't match up with the emotion, with the actions. Even the mouthing didn't really work well. But I can kind of excuse them. None of them were voice actors.
They could have worked with that because they did. There was one joke with that during the hooker, when he was picking up the hooker scene, where when she asks if he's a cop, they dubbed her voice over with this like really deep manly voice, and it turned into a joke, but they never went back to that at all.
Yeah, I kind of felt like that was the only time that joke would have worked. Like, it was just appropriate at that time, and if they had done that for like one of the other women or like at any other point, I felt like that would have kind of killed the joke. So
it worked for you.
Yeah, it kind of worked. Like, I thought that was a funny joke. Even before I really noticed the dubbing a lot, like I just thought that was just a funny joke. I didn't think that really detracted from or like made the dubbing more noticeable.
So the acting. What can you say about the acting? Was it good acting?
It wasn't the worst acting I've ever seen.
Was it really bad acting?
It wasn't really bad. It was
I think it was overacting at its best.
Yeah, definitely at its best. Like, I enjoyed it. I thought Lionel was great. I liked how he's just he was just angry the whole time. Like, every scene he's in, he's just angry, but even when he's happy, he's still angry.
Angry and grunting and growling. And
I'm happy, but also angry.
I feel like everyone who acted in this movie was like, let's watch a bunch of Keanu Reeves movies and try to imitate him. Let's just go over the top.
But it worked well with the style of the movie. I mean, if they had been, like, fantastic actors, that would have actually detracted from the humor of it. Like, this was meant to be a cheap movie. It was meant to be funny. So.
And actually, I think that adds in, because I think that the man that played Mr. Grove, Bruce Cronander, I think he was phenomenal.
Yeah, I think he did well, too. He's been in a few other things. He saw low-budget films, but, yeah, he did quite well.
And it kind of added to everything that he was in here doing such a phenomenal job, and everyone else was this ridiculous overacting. He did his overacting parts too.
But that kind of worked because he was like at one point they show he writes a letter to Lionel, and it's in this really fantastic, fabulous writing, and it kind of went with his style of talking, very like eloquent and very well spoken, even though he's a janitor.
Speaking of fabulous writing, I think we must mention that Mr. Grove and Lionel do live in a closet together.
That is quite fabulous.
So, and also the paper was pink and long flowing handwriting.
I think we just stumbled upon something.
And, Lionel did whack off a dead FBI male agent.
Hey, just in time for the Pride Parade this weekend.
So, and the other thing about the acting is Lionel's voice. Every time he talked, I'm like, oh my god, it's Batman.
Yeah, that was great. He was the Batman on a budget, and who didn't really stop criminals. He just kind of murdered people. So not really Batman at all, but I want to think of him as Batman.
It would be an honor to clean this studio. That's just how he talks.
I drink cleaning fluid for fun.
It's my mouthwash. So any dialogue problems?
Not particularly. The dialogue was pretty good overall. It was definitely well written for for an amateur film. I really enjoyed it. They definitely knew exactly what they wanted out of the film. So I really didn't have many problems with the dialogue.
Well then, I think it's about time for a quote war.
Quote wars. All right, Corey, I'm starting with this one. Now, I'm sure the rumors have been spread faster than gonorrhea in a $2 whorehouse in St. Patrick's Day, but I'm here to clean them all up.
That was from Mr. Bouillabaisse. Good one. Well, you know what? We've got the 411 on that dead bitch's head that was found out on your lawn. Agent Page strikes you back.
Ah, that hurt. It's funny. I wake up in a puddle of my own vomit. Then I go out with a styrofoam cup. I make a good $45 a day easy, and if I'm lucky, I get a little midget crack whore to give me a blowjob. You probably don't make as much as little Ling Ling over there in Taiwan sewing up soccer balls. from the bum.
Well, I get about $8,000. That's before taxes. They give me a free closet to live in. For free. From Lionel.
Smoke crack and worship Satan. Bartender shirt.
Holy Jesus. I haven't seen anything this awful since the great chlamydia outbreak of 72. Mr. Bouillabaisse.
Corey, murdering innocents is one thing, but betraying a friend is unforgivable. Mr. Grove.
Well, you know what? Fuck the customer. The bartender's shirt.
There's no stopping the custodians of darkness. From Willis.
Oh, I think that's a wrap.
Yeah, epic. Don't forget to tweet us at BMovieBros, all one word, and tell us which quote was the best and who won this episode of Quote Wars.
So what else can we say about this movie? One thing is, this movie, depending on where you look it up, some places say it was 2005, some places say 2003. And what really happened is, this movie was made in 2003 and had a very limited theatrical release. And then it wasn't released on DVD until 2005. So that's why you get those conflicting views. And then in 2013, there was a porno released that was The Janitor. It's a XXX spoof.
So they actually made a porn version of this film. Like, who makes a porn version of a low-budget film? Like, I know they make, like, Breaking Bad porn and, like, The Simpsons porn, things like that, but, like, The Janitor, that's just...
There's a Beavis and Butthead porn.
Well, that doesn't surprise me either. They're well known. I mean, there's a Family Guy porn.
There's an E.T. the porno. There's Las Tortugas Piñas, which is the Ninja Turtles porn. It's a Spanish
one.
I mean, come on.
But The Janitor, like, how many people actually saw this movie? And, like, somebody actually saw this and, like, you know what? This would make a really great porn. Like, that was not one of my thoughts watching this movie at all.
There is sex in this movie. I could see it working. But I don't know.
Still, it's like that's some kind of mindset you'd have to have. Like, I don't even know what to say to that.
So yeah, I mean, that's about anything else that we could say about this movie. So let's take a few minutes to go beyond the reel here and talk about somebody behind this movie. And I want to highlight Andy Signore, who he played the janitor, and he was the writer and one of the directors for this movie. And
he wrote the screenplay and he wrote the original story of it.
Oh, that's what else we could have said. This was actually based on a 2002 short called "The Office is Closed, but Her Legs Are Open."
Yeah, I believe that was their final project when they were in film school. They went to I believe it was went to Columbia College in Hollywood, and that was their final project. And afterwards, they thought, we can actually make this and this character into a full-length movie. So,
and it worked for them.
Yeah, overall, it was pretty good.
Andy Signore was born August 15th, 1979 in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. And he was actually born on the same day that Francis Ford Coppola's movie Apocalypse Now was released in theaters.
It can't be a coincidence.
It can't be.
I refuse to believe.
So he directed and starred in The Janitor the same year that he graduated from his college, Columbia College of Hollywood, California. And he actually graduated summa cum laude in cinema. He went on to mostly do TV and internet work as a writer and director. In 2007, he won the Best Spoof Award at the MTV Movie Awards.
That's pretty impressive.
He created several popular internet series, Honest Trailers, Man at Arms, The Screen Junkie Show, and Prank Bank.
I love Honest Trailers. That's a really good one. I didn't know that was actually by him.
Yeah, he actually created that series and
awesome.
Directs a lot of them. And you can actually go to his website. It's andysignore.com, and you can read all about his career, and you can even see his current resume if you want to hire him for something.
We may have to end up doing that at some point. If we ever decide to make our own low-budget film, we're giving him a call.
Also, if you try to check him out on IMDb, his IMDb biography was also written by himself.
There you go. Make sure that everything stays straight. So no lies.
He gets around.
Yeah, he's an impressive guy. He's pretty accomplished considering everything.
So, do we have any conflicts in this movie?
I
I don't think so.
Not really.
So we can't really
I'd
do a cinema
say-
conflict here. So let's talk about...
Okay, before one thing with the cinema conflict, I do have to criticize a few things. For one reason, I watched this movie with my fiance, and she didn't like the movie. I loved the movie personally, so I feel for her sake I should find some things to criticize for this. I still love the movie, but on behalf of her.
Well, you know what? I watched this movie with my wife, and she liked this movie. So we're going to battle as your fiance and my wife. Husband to husband, we're going to battle here, okay?
It's this fucked up family situation. Alright, so my only problems with it were, and this isn't even a problem, it's, so you have Lionel. He's, this serial killer janitor. He kills people who piss him off, he kills hookers, he kills FBI agents who who have a sample of his semen that they found on the hooker's, decapitated head. He just goes around and killing people. And so he's not a good guy by any means. I mean, he's got some mental issues. Like when he kills the hooker, he just sees red and lops off her head for no reason. Like, this guy's got some serious schizophrenia, bipolar. He's a whole textbook of problems. But at the same point, we're also kind of made to feel for him, he's the everyman, getting shit on by society. But you can't really feel that bad for him because he's a murderer. And so when in the movie, Mr. Grove betrays him and ends up getting the job with the sorority house, and then there's an epic battle, and I'm like, I want to root for Lionel, but he's not really a good guy either. Mr. Grove is a dick, but this guy's a murderer.
But Lionel's straightforward. Mr. Grove is a deceitful asshole. He tells these girls lies, even though he's telling some of the truth about Lionel. He's making things up. He tells him that Lionel whacked off on a dead FBI agent. That is a total lie. He only whacked off the agent. So you know what? Lionel's not the bad guy here. And he is totally relatable. I work in an office, and you know what? Sometimes people can be assholes just because they think they're better than you. And you can feel like how Lionel feels, so you can relate to him, and you can be like, that is an ideal situation because he kills them, and he gets away with it. And he doesn't even think about it. It just kind of happens that way. And that is why it's great. Even though, even if you don't like the violence, even if you don't like the potty jokes, you can understand his feelings and why he would do something like that and be like, I want to be that man someday.
You know what? Just because you said that, I'm going to put my psychology degree to work here. Okay, so Lionel is a murdering, psychopathic, possibly schizophrenic individual. I'd say he's probably bipolar because he jumps from being real serene, not serene, but really slow-spoken, then something just sets him off and he goes crazy. That's got to be some kind of bipolar disorder, some kind of weird mood swings that he gets, and
I think
I'd
just
say
he's sexual frustration.
Probably that too, but I'd say he might be slightly on the Asperger's level as well. I would definitely say the schizophrenia. He believes that, especially with Mary, who I don't think even knew what his name was, who's supposed to be his love interest. At one point, at the end of the movie, she gets kidnapped by Mr. Grove and
Hillary.
Yeah, Hillary. She gets kidnapped by Mr. Grove and the sorority girls, and she just doesn't know why the hell she's there. She's there as ransom to take advantage of Lionel. She doesn't know what his name is. She doesn't even know who he is. He was that creepy janitor she bumped into once, and then she quit the job. So he's definitely got some delusions of grandeur with that. He sees things. He has a whole fantasy about eating an arm while he's getting a blowjob from a hooker. I would say if I had to diagnose him, I would give him bipolar disorder, schizophrenia, and I'd say that he's somewhere on the autism scale. Now, Mr. Grove, he's a little bit more interesting. I would actually diagnose him with borderline personality disorder. And for those who don't know, borderline personality disorder is when you believe that certain relationships are a lot deeper than they are. He believed that he and Lionel were a lot closer than they were. He had known Lionel for a while, but Lionel really was just kind of lived with him, and he was just a worker. It was his only friend, but they really weren't close. But Lionel kept saying how he wanted to be involved with him in his life, how he wanted to be involved with the murders. He really latched onto him. That's very classic of of borderline personality disorder. Now, when Lionel got the job for the at the sorority house, Mr. Grove's first thought was, well, when do I start? He didn't understand that Lionel was leaving without him, and therefore he felt betrayed. There was no reason for that, but that is classic borderline personality disorder. You believe that people are out to get you, you believe that people are out to betray you, you latch onto them, and then you throw them to the wayside, and therefore Lionel became public enemy number one at that point. So it was just, he was ready to get rid of him. So that is my thoughts on this. They were both mentally disturbed people, and as somebody who has a degree in this, I work in the psychology field, I kind of feel for both of them. But neither of them was a good person. Like, neither of them was a hero. They were both kind of bad people overall.
And this has been the first edition of 5 Cent Psychology with Dr. Paul. Ooh, I'm just catching my breath there, man. That was...
I had to.
That was intense.
I've got my built-up psychology mojo going.
Since we didn't have too much conflict, I want to talk about something in unrelated news. So, last night, as my wife and I are watching this movie, we've got some big windows, and we live in an apartment on the backside of a house, and we hear all this yelling out front. And, all of a sudden, amidst all this yelling, you hear pop, pop, and then, silence for a second, some more screaming, and then pop, 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 and at this point, I'm like, get down on the ground. And she's like, are you going to call 911? I'm like, is the door open? She's like, yeah. So I close the door, I get the windows closed, and I call 911. And the operator answers, and she goes, 911 emergency. And I'm like, police? Because as a child and as a child educator, we teach our children that, when you call 911, the first question they ask is, please state the nature of your emergency. Who do you need? Well, that wasn't her question, because she reiterated to me, what address is your emergency at? And I was like, I don't know what address the emergency's at, but I'm at my address. And, I just heard gunshots outside. And she's like, well, what did you see? And I'm like, thinking to myself, what did I see? I didn't see anything, because I didn't want to get shot. So I tell her, my windows are wide open. I heard, yelling, then gunshots, and more yelling. I said, so, I didn't see anything because I got down. And she's like, okay, well, how many gunshots did you hear? Once again, I'm like, what the fuck do you think I was doing here? I'm sorry, I was too busy not getting shot to count how many shots were fired. But then I, being the kind, generous, courteous person that I am, did a little deduction in my head and was like, well, the average firearm that someone would carry has about 10 rounds in it, so we'll say between 7 and 10. And she's like, okay, well, we'll send a unit by to see if anything strange is going on in the area. And I'm like, something strange going on there? If I was calling 911 for something not strange going on in the area, why do you think I called 911, lady?
Bitches be crazy.
So, I don't know how to feel about calling 911 anymore.
And this is why the world needs more B-movies like The Janitor, because shit like that happens.
So, yeah. Well, let's get your final take on the movie. If you could give this a score out of 10, 1 to 10 on our shot scale. Now, remember, our shot scale is a reverse scale. It goes from 1 to 10, 1 being the best, 10 being the worst. With how many shots do you need to get through this movie? Out of 10, what would you say?
I would give it a 3. I didn't need that much, but I definitely wanted to find reasons to drink watching this. It just kind of made it more fun. I mean, it was definitely, looking at it from the perspective of, how low budget it was and how, they just graduated from film school. They had no budget. I really enjoyed it, but it did have some problems, and it's just better to drink watching this movie. That's basically it.
I give this a 1. I mean, taking a shot with it, just for fun, makes it a little easier to get past the few little gripes that I have. But overall, I rather enjoy this movie.
Yeah, it's definitely a fun time to watch it.
So how about justify your score? Give us a little more reason and why. In 90 seconds or less.
I'd say there were definitely a lot of situations where I kept thinking, the fuck, The part where Lionel jacks off that guy while talking to Mr. Grove was a little odd.
Salty.
Yeah, I mean, it was funny, but I mean, it was a little excessive. I don't know if I can say excessive with this movie, but I guess it didn't really drag on. But there were definitely like because there were so many outrageous things in the movie, there were times where when nothing outrageous was going on, it seemed like it was going on a little long. So I guess if they had added a little bit more like outrageousness to it, there were definitely some great lines in it, but I thought they were a little too spaced out. The ones that were great were fantastic. I still love the bartender's shirt. Smoke crack and worship Satan. That was pretty awesome. And yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say on that one.
Well, for my score, 1 out of 10, I have to say that The Janitor is like an epitome of B-movies. It has the over-the-top characters, especially with the boss and the FBI agent. There's unnecessary violence, positively ridiculous and unbelievable storyline, with a few theme deaths like the scrub brush down the throat, and a lot of machete kills. It blends originality with genre mainstays. And the jokes that come up, they're funny, and the actors and actresses know how to act, or overact at least. They deliver the lines as best as they can. You know, I give it a 1 out of 10 because it calls itself a comedy horror, and it really hits on the comedy, but it has a lot of murder, so I really want to consider it a horror movie, because it's more comedy. The blood, the gore, also the fact that about half the movie is bathed in bare-breasted women, blood, and guts show that it really is a B-movie, and it goes above and beyond the call of being a B-movie.
Yeah, I just want to make one quick comparison to this. Last week we watched Feast, which I did not like. I'm sure everyone listening to this, anyone who read our Facebook page, noticed that I did not like that movie very much.
Even though I did.
Yeah, you did, but that's not important. But what's important is I didn't like the movie, and basically, if I can compare The Janitor to Feast, Feast was a movie where they tried making something. I felt like they were basically at a check mark, a book where they were checking off like, well, people like aliens or monsters, well, people like this, and they tried to make it a B movie when they tried making an A movie, they disguised it as a B movie because they knew they couldn't pull it off, and they didn't really know what they were doing. They were trying to make it big. With this, they were just having fun. They knew they didn't have a lot to work with, and they said, you know what, we're going to make a film. It's going to be the best we can do, and, you know, we're proud of this. And it was nice watching the special features of it when they presented it to their college. They had a huge applause. Everyone liked it, and everyone had a great time. So this is what I would consider a real B movie. This is what I go into, what I expect to go into when I watch a B movie. Just something fun, something that a few people with a very low budget had, and they weren't like, oh, we don't have a lot of budget. What are we gonna do? We barely have any money. They're like, you know what? We've got enough. We're going to use what we have, and it will be fun, and we're proud of this. And I have to praise that movie for that.
Well, enough about B movies. I know that some people listening to this might not like the same kind of crap that we do. So we're going to go into something here we like to call A Movie Companion, where we're going to give this movie a makeover, and we're going to tell you how it relates to an A-class movie.
Yeah, for those of you who don't know, B movies originally were a low-budget movie that actually came after an A movie, so hence the B movie. So this is kind of the accompanying one.
So we're going to tell you why this A movie is just a different version of this B movie we watched. So I believe that The Janitor is just the movie GoldenEye in disguise. Yes, James Bond, GoldenEye, 1995. And why do I say this? Well, here we go. James Bond and Janitor both start with the letter J. Both James Bond and Lionel kill people. They both have gadgets. Bond gets his from Q. Lionel gets his from a closet. They both have a quote-unquote hot co-worker. They both have a girl that dies after having sex with them. You know, Bond has his Bond girls. Lionel had a hooker, even though Lionel's the one that killed the hooker. She still died in the end. You know, they both were betrayed by a friend and colleague, Bond by Alex Trevelyan, and Lionel by Cornelius Hornsby Grobo. And that's why GoldenEye is just an A-movie version of The Janitor.
Those are some amazing comparisons, and now all I want to do is play GoldenEye for the N64.
Do-do-do-do-do-do-do.
Okay, I'm gonna
I call Odd Job.
There you go. As an A-movie companion, I'm going to say the movie American Psycho. Because in that movie is all about basically upper-class American entrepreneurs basically murdering people who are completely amoral, completely absorbed in themselves, of that kind of scale of society, like committing murders, heinous murders, and it was really a social commentary on that. Now, this was about a blue-collar worker, a janitor who was basically the lowest of the low. He lived in a closet, he made terrible money, and he went around murdering people. So if you take the social commentary of American Psycho as a criticism of the American upper class, the businessmen, the entrepreneurs, and such, this would be a commentary on the working class and how they are basically shat upon by the others and how that affects them in almost the same kind of way. So I'd say that American Psycho would probably be my A-movie companion pick for this particular movie.
Well, and I can see that because, an A-class movie about upper-class people and a B-class, a lower-class movie about lower-class people, it all goes hand in hand.
I think it works pretty well.
So the last thing we have to talk to you about is if you want to drink away the flick. Drink away the flick. Come on and grab your drink. Let's drink away the flick. This is just some fun drinking games that Paul and I thought of while watching this movie. I'll give you some, then Paul will give you some. So from me, 1. Every time someone dies, take a drink. 2. Anytime there is a montage, finish your drink. 3. Whenever someone loses an arm, take 2 drinks. Number 4. Every time Mr. Bouillabaisse mentions an STD, take a drink. And number 5, whenever This Little Light of Mine plays, take a drink. As for Paul,
whenever somebody gets dismembered, take a drink. Whenever there are boobs, take a drink. Whenever there's... just whenever you're just completely baffled by something going on, whether it be Lionel jacking off an FBI agent, or at one point Lionel pulls out of Robbie a fetus who he calls Little Robbie, and that just stuck with me.
Or if you see the Powerpuff Girls in this movie.
I actually did not notice that one, but I would definitely drink if I saw. Yeah, that's about it for the drink away the flick.
So that's how you can drink away this flick. Now, if you want to join us next week, we will be taking a look at the 1996 patriotic slasher Uncle Sam for the special 4th of July weekend. So, don't forget to follow us on Twitter at BMovieBros, all one word, and like us on Facebook at BMovieBros. And until we meet again, be brave, be alive, and be back next week.